Back on the Hardy Complex, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me. We've gotten through a whole ramble and rant on the Rams and on Josh Rosen. So let's switch gears from football and into politics now. I get this question pretty often, but nevertheless, it's something that I kind of expect based off of how open I am with my political opinions. And it's always my thought on third parties, primarily for the fact that I get the question very often of, are you Democrat or are you Republican? And I guess the big question is, because I lambast them both in equal ways, it's kind of a question, well, what are you? And the honest answer is that I'm neither. I'm an independent. I don't identify with either political party. I don't really identify with any political party unless the independent party was a thing, which it's not. But I always, look at it in my head like it is. And a lot of people kind of ask me what my thought and my opinion on third parties are, primarily because of the case that if I'm not part of the one of the two major political parties, then what about the third? And it's kind of a it's kind of an interesting little, I guess, track, because I like the third party, or I like third parties mostly because of the fact that they don't have the luxuries that I think the Democrats and Republicans take for granted. With third parties, you don't have major backers. You have to gain, I think it was 12% in, or no, what was it, 5% of the vote in every state in order to get on the ballot in those states. And you need to get 15% of the vote in order to be in the presidential debates, which I think is pretty easy with the right candidate and the right mindset. But it's kind of a case where Republicans and Democrats have a lot of backers. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of ways in which they can kind of get their way. And with the Democrats, I feel as though they pick the candidate that's not best for the country, but will benefit them the most and will get what they want done the most. With Republicans, I feel that it's more kind of a case of a more monetary system than it is a beneficiary system. I think it kind of comes down to the fact where Democrats want the power and Republicans want their way. And they have the money to do so. And I think they take that money for granted. Third parties don't have the money to do that. Third parties don't really have anything to gain from a president being in office because of the fact that they don't really have any sort of direction that they lean to. Like Democrats, they want power. They are like the power-hungry party. Republicans, they want their way. It's less power like the Democrats and more of a case where they just want what they want to have go through. It's kind of similar, but in different sort of ways and in different sides of the aspect. And when you get to that point where, like with the Obama administration, they had a Democratic president, but you had the Republican majority in House, Senate, and Congress, which is not fantastic. I'll say this much, because when it comes down to the president, you have to go through those specific chambers in order to kind of get it, or get anything passed and put into regulation. And when you get to the Senate or Congress or the House, the majority tends to outweigh, or the majority always outweighs the ones in the minority vote, but most times the minority vote is the one that has the president. So the president has to put something through these positions in which he's going to get it shot down because Republicans don't want the Democrats to have that power that's trying to be put in place. So it's kind of like a case where it's like, it could be the best thing in the world, but if it gives the Democrats power, then the Republicans push it away just out of spite. It's a case where it's not what's best for the country, it's what's best for the party. And I hate that. I hate that with a lot of passion. And that's why I go for the third parties most oftentimes. Like this year, I'll be voting for Oz Griebel in the Connecticut gubernatorial elections. A couple of years ago, I don't think I would have voted for anybody. In 2016, I would have voted for, if I had to vote either of the two major candidates, I would have voted Trump because he was the lesser of two evils in my mind. And just under my opinion, I didn't like either of them. And in 2020, I'll probably vote for an independent candidate. It's just kind of a case where I like the third parties because they don't have anything to gain or lose from having the presidency. So you're not voting for a party, you're voting for a candidate, the way that presidential elections are meant to be controlled. And I would love for a third party to become a major party, primarily for the fact that I would like it to take a middle-of-the-road stance. And if they were to take a middle-of-the-road stance, I think they would become the leading party. Because of the case that I think there are more people that edge towards the middle of the road than there are that go hard left or hard right. And with that, they wouldn't have much to gain or lose as well because of the fact that with the middle-of-the-road approach, they don't have a real hard stance on anything. If you know what I'm trying to say. It's like the Republicans and Democrats, they have a hard stance on some things. Republicans want abortion to be illegal. Democrats want abortion to be legal. So Democrats would primarily vote for abortion to be legalized. Republicans would vote for abortion to be illegalized, I guess, or repeal Roe versus Wade. The middle-of-the-road candidate, the third-party candidate, wouldn't sway either way. So they would not be gaining or losing from whatever the outcome was. They'd just be doing it for the better of the party. And that's what I love. And I think if you were to have a third-party candidate go right in the fucking middle, split right down the goddamn scene, I think as long as you had a charismatic candidate that could pull the strings well enough to be able to, not pull the strings, but pull their, let me rephrase that. If you had a charismatic candidate that could appeal to voters and could really get people stirred up and riled up and wanting to vote and wanting to see change, I think you would absolutely see an independent candidate or a third-party candidate end up winning the presidency. Let me just use this analogy for an example. If you had the independent party, I think Republicans, hard right, Democrats, hard left, have an independent party right in the middle, like those old country club Republicans and those Democratic Republicans, or those Republican Democrats, or whatever you call them. At that point in time, if you had a charismatic individual, like let's just say you had a Barack Obama, a very charismatic young man in the independent party, getting people to see the humane side, getting people to see a caring family man, and on top of that, someone who's got his head in the right place, someone who can hold a conversation with the best of them, someone that it really comes off as a charmer. I think at that point in time, once you see an individual like that in the independent party, and you become more like attracted to their ideas and their policies and their mindset, as long as you could appeal to those voters, I think at that point in time, you get some attention. I think that then you get some, news stations are following you. They're following the campaign. It's like, let's just say you're, I don't know, memes are easy to become nowadays. So let's just say you're a handsome young man that is a charmer, kind of like a nice southern accent, like not even a thick southern accent, but a loose southern accent, and it's... you have the correct mindset and the correct policies, and you put everything for the country in the best light possible, and you're a family man. Let's just say all the things go right for you. The internet will start catching on with you. They'll start following you. They'll start becoming more intrigued with you. You'll start getting people to go to the polls. You'll start polling 5% in every state, getting on the ballot in every state. You'll start polling 15% of the vote, which will allow you the opportunity to become in the presidential debates. And you're in the middle of the road. Then you start aiming for states like Utah. You start aiming for states like Nevada. I'm sorry, not Utah. Nevada. You start aiming for states like Pennsylvania, like Florida. these states that really can tend to be swing states, Iowa, Ohio, again, as I said, those Michigan, Wisconsin, those states that tend to swing either way in an election based off of who the candidates are, you start going for those states and taking away votes from either party, and you keep doing that consistently, you have the opportunity to have those states become independent states, not Republican or red or blue states, but yellow states. And then you continue down that path, and within 20 years, I think you'd be able to have an actual shot at winning a general election with an independent candidate. And the Electoral College gets remapped because you no longer need 270 now that there are 3 parties, and so on and so forth. So I think a third party could absolutely become a thing that gains power in the United States and can be a major political party. I just think you need to have it done right. You need to have your priorities in order. You need to have people catch on and realize who they're voting for and like who they're voting for and what who they're voting for has in mind. And at that point in time, you're going to be good to go. You're going to be fantastic. You're going to be on the right trail, pretty much. I've just been rambling on my ass, so that's that. I guess take it or leave it. Hardy Complex back in 60.